Mike joining us now, and you wanted to weigh in with Ndamukong Suh. You know what? Let me ask you this: when you went to talk to the commissioner as a group, did Ndamukong Suh's name in that play come up during that meeting?
Yes, and one member of the crew, Rodney Harrison, who acknowledges that at one point he was suspended for a game for multiple violations. He argued aggressively for Ndamukong Suh to be suspended, and on our studio show that night on NBCSN, Rodney said Suh should be suspended 4 games for what he did, that there's no place in the game for that, and that the league needs to protect players from players like Suh.
4 games?
Rodney said 4 games. When you consider his history, he got 2 games for doing that goofy pro wrestling arm stomp on Evan Dietrich Smith.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't even a real stomp, but it was after the play. So the league seems to be more willing to suspend for stuff, Dan, that happens after the play. But when you look at something that has no place in football, it's not legal at any level of the sport. There's never been a time when Ndamukong Suh has played football that is a legal hit, to dive at a guy's knee behind the play on a turnover return. There's only one thing you can infer, an intent to injure. And if you're going to suspend multiple members of the Saints for talking but not acting, and you're going to not suspend Suh for acting, for doing the very thing that we thought the Saints were encouraging, how do you reconcile that? I don't think you can.
Well, but I'm looking at the play, and the NFL had the benefit of looking at replay for 24, 48 hours before they issued their punishment here. He hits him, it's above the knee. I don't like the play, but I'm going to separate Suh from this and just say this is player X. Now, when I put Suh in there, that's where you ratchet up the fine to $100,000. I don't like the play, but I don't think it's as egregious as everybody else thinks it is.
It's an illegal block below the waist. It's been out of the NFL for decades. It hasn't been legal at any time Suh's been playing. And there's been so much talk in the preseason about protecting players from hits below the waist in situations where they aren't necessary.
But how do you judge intent here, Mike? I know we can say it's an illegal block, okay? It seems like the NFL is factoring in intent here because it's Ndamukong Suh.
Well, but why is it an illegal block? It's an illegal block because you can get a guy in a situation where he doesn't see it coming. He can suffer a serious injury, tear an ACL, break an ankle, do whatever.
But is everybody fined $100,000 for that block?
Oh, no, because the history becomes part of it.
Okay, but then it becomes Ndamukong Suh and intent in there. Then you're trying to read an intent. If I say, look, there's no place for it in football, I agree. But it feels like it's a little heavier-handed than it should be because it's Ndamukong Suh.
Well, and the history is always a factor. If it's the first time a guy ever does something like that, the fine is going to be less. But given the attention and the focus on these low hits that we've now seen, the hit on Dustin Keller and others, and players speaking out and saying we need more protections against these low hits when guys don't see them coming on both sides of the ball, that's what I think has gotten Rodney's attention. And when you factor in Suh's history, look, hey, $100,000 is still a lot of money. And given what his base salary is this year, it's roughly the equivalent of 3 game checks because he took a big chunk of his money in the offseason and drove his base salary down. But still, when you consider everything Suh's done, it's a surprise they didn't suspend him. It really is. Even if it's just 1 game. I think 4 games a little bit much.
Yeah.
1 game would have been justified, I think, under the circumstances. And now he's got to be one step closer. You have to think the next time he does anything remotely that jeopardizes player safety and that violates the rules, he's going to get suspended.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, see you, buddy.
Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.